So I hate to break it to you guys, but I watched Dune Part 2, and out of all the other movies that I watched in theaters, Dune Part 2 is not nearly as funny as Madam Web is. Watching Dune, I didn't find myself falling out of my seat laughing at what I was watching. It was really disappointing. So if you're looking for a good comedic time in the movies, I don't know if I can recommend Dune over Madam Web. It's just how it is. But if you take away that aspect, oh my god, man. This movie is unbelievable. I've read the first Dune book, and I really love Dune Part 1, so going into Dune Part 2, I was already going into it knowing that I was most likely going to like it. Again, Dune Part 1, great. Denis Villeneuve has literally never made a bad movie in his entire career. So I was like, what's gonna happen here? This is like a guaranteed safe bet that this is going to be great. But guys, you know, there are just some things that you anticipate and that you expect to be really good, yet somehow exceed those expectations. That's this movie, man. Oh my god, Dune Part 2. It's restored the feeling. It's restored that feeling inside of me that's been empty for so long, or it feels like it's been so long. That indescribable feeling. You know, it's that thing that Nicole Kidman talked about in that AMC intro. I literally left Dune Part 2 feeling like that one picture where the dolphins are jumping out of the ocean. That's how I felt, dude. Oh my god. To start things off with Timothée Chalamet, I mean, I've always liked Timothée Chalamet as an actor, and in basically every single thing he's been in, he's always given off a strong performance. And I've always thought that Timothée Chalamet was super talented and super charismatic, but I felt like there was always like a cap on Timothée Chalamet. And I mean, maybe it's because I kind of see him as like a silly, goofy dude, because like, I mean, his digital footprint is pretty goofy, and he just seems like a really nice guy. In my mind, he's the blueprint of like, yeah, you alright, white kid. And I liked him in Part 1, and I've always thought that he was a good fit as Paul from the beginning, from when it was announced that he was casted as Paul. But here, dude, he really gets to flex. He gets to flex so hard. I'm just gonna say it. This is Timothée Chalamet's best performance in his whole career. He's still super charming and charismatic as Paul, but in this movie, he gets to really add a new layer of depth to Paul in his performance. A layer that's truly like commanding, like he takes over so many scenes. And I mean, yeah, he's the main character, but it's just so different, and the arc that Paul goes through is made so much more believable and is so much more impactful because of those layers and those depths that Timothée Chalamet is able to give to him through that performance. But putting Timothée Chalamet to the side really quick, the rest of the cast is just as good and just as captivating. Zendaya as Chani is so good, especially in the last act of the movie. She's incredible. She's so subtly expressive in the second half of the movie. She's very much like the emotional weight of the story. And Chani as a character in this movie is very, very different from the books as well. I like that Chani in this movie is given a lot more depth and a lot more things to do. She feels more like a fleshed out character, as she's more somebody who's opposing of the idea of the prophecy in Dune. It makes her dynamic with Paul and the other characters on Arrakis very, very different, but also gives it a little more, I can't think of another word to use, I promise. I'm not trying to be punny, spice. And her beliefs, along with the other beliefs of the Fremen, make the world of Arrakis feel a lot more realistic. And I like that there's a bit of a push and pull here with Chani versus Javier Bardem as Stilgar and Rebecca Ferguson as Lady Jessica. Rebecca Ferguson does such a great job at making Lady Jessica such a crazy psycho bitch, man. I could not stand her in this movie. I mean, she was great, she did a great job, but oh my god, I was like, and Stilgar, the ultimate dick rider, man. I mean, he's great hype man, but also an incredible dick rider. But Javier Bardem does a great job of balancing the compassion and sort of mentor figure of Paul Atreides while also balancing being this crazy religious zealot. I think it was just me, personally, but I think it was also kind of weird that Stilgar was, like, the comedic relief of this movie, in a way, and it was just a little strange. Another standout performance for me, though, was Austin Butler as Fade Routha. Catching these fades. You can just tell that Austin Butler loved playing this evil, maniacal, weird freak. Bald freak. And him as Fade just brings a whole different dynamic and a whole different tone to the movie. I do also really like that Austin Butler tries to pull off like a bit of a Skarsgård accent. Like he tries to be like the missing Skarsgård brother. I just thought that was a nice little touch. The cinematography in this movie is astounding. Absolutely breathtaking. This movie looks like $1 trillion fucking dollars, but it was made with a lower budget than like the majority of like Marvel movies and the majority of the blockbusters that look like shit these days. And I hate to be like, oh, people don't make movies like this these days. But like, this movie just looks so fucking good. This movie needs to be like the new gold standard, man. Especially when it comes to the visuals, because the special effects, the cinematography, everything, the like framing of the shots, the camera movements, it's all stunning. It's breathtaking. It looks beautiful. Greg Fraser has the sauce. Denis Villeneuve, you have the sauce. I knew you had the sauce. This is a movie that feels like an event, and it feels like the culmination of something, especially because for so long, Dune has been kind of seen as like one of those books and one of those stories that was kind of unadaptable, but somehow Denis Villeneuve and the cast and crew have pulled it off astoundingly. And it's really interesting to me because Dune Part 1 is basically one-to-one with the first 2/3 of the book. Like, there were minor changes here and there, but it was about as close as you can get to adapting the books. But in Dune Part 2, this movie covers the last third of the book, and I have to say that I think the changes that they made in this movie from the book actually play better for the movie itself. I won't go into too much detail to avoid spoilers, but there are some character relationships that change, the dynamic of certain characters change, and the ending is also very different, at least tonally in my opinion, from the book. Honestly, I think that the changes that were made were meant to sort of make the story a little bit more digestible. I think something that a lot of Dune fans take for granted, especially these days, is that this book is really fucking dense. Like, it's dense as fuck. A lot of the last part of Dune is really just people talking about their feelings and people talking about what's going on in the fight off screen, and a lot of Paul inner monologue, which, you know, is cool. I read Dune and I really liked that. I thought it was neat. But as a movie, don't think it would translate super well on screen, especially for trying to appeal to a wider audience. But I still think that with those changes, they've maintained the core elements, the core themes of the story of Dune. You know, they maintain that subtlety, even though I said that they make the themes and the lessons and the messages of the movie a little bit more apparent, a little bit more obvious and digestible to mainstream audiences. It still is smart enough and subtle enough to get people to think and get people to infer and read between the lines and read the subtext. It makes me so happy that the Dune agenda is spreading and that Dune is being introduced in a way that is approachable for new audiences and approachable for a new generation. I saw kids at this movie theater watching it and being like, literally like sitting up, like when the video game starts to be serious. Like it was that breathtaking for people and that captivating for people. Although I haven't fully read past the first Dune book, I'm super interested in how Denis Villeneuve and the rest in the cast and crew follow up with Dune Messiah, especially with how different this movie ended from the book. Like, there's totally a possibility that it ends the same way or it plays in the same way. They just take a different route to the same destination. But now I just don't know. Dune is a fucking achievement, man. It is an achievement. It is a milestone in film. Shout out to Denis Villeneuve. Shout out to the cast and crew of this movie for being able to not only adapt what was considered an unadaptable film, but to also make it and create it in a way that they've made it their own. They've made it their own vision while staying true to the cores of Dune. Just make sure that in Dune Messiah, you put in the fucking Guild Navigators, please. You fucking cowards. Anyway, Dune Part 2, 9.5 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching. As always, make sure you leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Leave a comment, let me know what you thought about Dune. Subscribe if you want to keep up with more videos. And thank you guys again for watching. And I'll see you guys in the next one.